Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Sagittarius, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of September 2025. I hope you are well. Apologies in the delay in getting this to you, unavoidable, unfortunately. I'm using the Tower of the Divine for you today. Before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That should be the first link in the description box below. You're looking for the link that takes you to Selfie. Alternatively, you can come join my private community over on the Circle platform, which is the Order of the Phoenix. Over there, you can get access to all of the extended content for no extra cost beyond the membership fee. You can hang out with an extraordinary group of people and you can come and take part in our live classes that we run there twice a month, in all sorts of modalities. It's not just tarot, it's a bit of everything. So if that sounds like it might be of interest to you, Sagittarius, you know what to do with that link. Right, let's get straight on with this, shall we? Could I have 3 cards for Sagittarius, please? Whoa, okay, so we have the 4 of Wands and we have the 3 of Wands in your recent past. Notice that 3 of Wands is reversed. Both fire energy, actually Aries, but we'll get to that in a second. What about current energy, please, for Sag? What's going on with Sagittarius right now? Oh, interesting. We have the 10 of Pentacles, and what about what's coming towards Sagittarius? Justice. Interesting. Very interesting. We have the Star at the bottom of the deck here. That's the sign of Aquarius, representative thereof, at least, anyway. But it does talk to many other things besides, and there's something quite interesting just about the way that these cards are showing up here that is putting me in mind of the future, quite simply. I mean, there seems to have been some sort of stasis is probably not quite the word, but there's something that's been stalling over here. And with this 3 of Wands in reverse, you know, definitely not a sense of moving forwards, but we've got contemplation of where it is that we're actually wanting to go, where it is that is within our reach to be able to achieve. And then we have Justice and the Star, which speaks to me, I think, particularly with this being a Virgo card here and us having a partial solar eclipse in the sign of Virgo coming up towards the end of this month, 21st, 22nd of September, something like that. This feels like a reorientation, Sagittarius. Now, I don't know if things have been being a little bit trying in the home space for a while, possibly. But this reorientation that's going on feels like it's something stronger than what you've been working to up until this point. So the deck that wanted to be used for the clarifiers is the Wild Unknown. So we're going to give that a big shuffle and then we're going to see what this is all about. Because I do feel a sense of things being a little bit in the weeds for you for a little while. I know that's not cool. Sagittarius likes to let an arrow fly and then, you know, follow it. Maybe at your leisure, maybe at a pace that most other people couldn't follow. But the idea that Sagittarius can fire an arrow that is straight and true and land, you know, dead on, bullseye on what it's targeting is something that feels like it's been absent from the internal discourse for a while. And I would say it was because you are changing, or maybe you have changed. And so what you thought you wanted before isn't quite as strong. Right? The magnetic force that seems to pull that arrow directly where you want it to go doesn't seem to have been working in the way that we would expect it to. And this Star card at the bottom, like, none of this has the quality of the Tower, which is often for me a card of reorientation, but it's quite a violent one when it shows up. You know, things go wrong or things go unexpectedly incredibly right. But it tends to sit at an extreme of an experience, right? And that suddenness is the very dominant frequency within that energy there. This doesn't feel like that. This feels more like you've been in quite an uncomfortable place for quite a while, trying to work out what feels right to you, and from that place where will feel righter, if you will, moving forwards. And it's just not being quite so clear as you would like it to be. It seems to me like that clarity is on its way in because you are reorienting. So let's have a look here. Tell me about this Four of Wands and Three of Wands reversed, please. We have the Four of Cups. That's interesting. Another foundational card. We have the Hierophant, arguably another foundational card. It's Taurus energy, at least, anyway. And we have the King of Wands, which we can see already is pulling in a different direction to where you feel the dominant energy is at the moment. Tell me about this Ten of Pentacles. We've got the Three of Wands and we've got the Page of Pentacles, and then we've got the Justice card. Why is this here? All right, Nine of Swords on its side. Very interesting. And whatever that is. Well, clearly I was a little bit quick in my discounting the Tower. Son of Cups here, which is the Knight of Cups in a standard deck. It's the energy of Pisces, which is very, very strong at the moment, because not only have we the lunar eclipse in Pisces that is happening this month, but we also have Saturn sat at 29 degrees of Pisces, which is, it's potent. It's really potent energy, particularly around the idea of structure and the idea of endings, the edges of things. I mean, this is Saturn's wheelhouse. This is what Saturn does. So my feeling of a reorientation actually feels like, now I've got these clarifiers on the table, that it's a little less about the universe stepping in and giving you a slap and saying, right, these are the things that need to go and this is the direction you're going in, right? A kind of like a staged intervention by the universe or God, source, creator, right? Whatever your wording is for it. And more that all of the bits of information within you have caught up and coalesced at the same time, such that you are but pushing in a direction is the wrong terminology. I'm trying to find the right terminology here, because there is an alignment, right? We've got major arcana energy that's coming in and helping guide this, but it's taking it off in a direction that you didn't expect, which is kind of Tower-like. But the reason that you've got there in the first place is more about the alignment that you're performing than, like I said, this big towery energy that's coming in and kicking everything over and going, what are you going to do now, Sag? That sort of energy. Anyway, so let's start over here, because I do think that this has been problematic for you, and maybe it's been problematic for a while. The Four of Wands, a bit like the Four of Cups in its own way, right, is a card that represents a foundation. It's really important in terms of what the rest of the cycle will be built on. And the Four of Wands for me is, it's a card of very happy things, right? It can be a card of weddings, quite literally a card of weddings. But for me, what's sitting at the core of this is the idea of home, right? Not in terms of your four walls, not at this point anyway, but the home as a concept, right? The people that feel like home to you, the situation that you are in that feels like home to you. Now, a lot of attention is given to Sagittarius in terms of that expansive, wandering spirit that you have, right? And not taking that away from you at all. But if you are to be anything other than a gypsy or a nomad, and that may well suit some people, it's knowing what base you are launching yourself from when you go explore, when you go adventure, right? The ability to be able to circle back to something that feels home-like to you is very, very important. And we see it's here on its side. Like, it doesn't feel like it's upended, it doesn't feel like it's chaotic, but it's certainly not inspiring within you the same level of passion, excitement, creativity. You know, we could have the energy of rootedness without any of the home-like qualities that are sitting over the top when this card is showing up in its sideways form here, because, you know, it can either be a card that's on the turn, or it can be an energy that is kind of up for discussion. It's up for reevaluation. This is certainly how it's felt for you. You know, you've either felt rooted without the joy, or you haven't felt the root. It's kind of like it's just been floating along like a floating platform, and it's not connecting with the ground at all, right? So then we also have the Three of Wands here, which for me is very much about movement, right? As you would expect, it's an Aries card. And because it follows on from the Two of Wands, what we've got is, you know, the idea of a crossroads moment where we're going, which way are we going to go? We're going to go this way, we're going to go that way. It's quite an internal proposition. The Three of Wands for me is then when that is externalized, decisions have been made and we're moving forwards. And it feels to me like you found it very unable, you found yourself unable to make the decisions. Think about what I was saying at the beginning about kind of unable to let the arrow fly, because the rootedness isn't there where you are at the moment. Now, this could be quite literally something to do with your physical home, but it could be about the people that are around you at the moment. It could be about the people that you're working with at the moment, right? It's like something's changed, and because it's not touching something, or it's restrictive and it's holding on to something without the joy, without the creativity, it's like, how do you motivate yourself to move? I think even before we get to the upward energy of the Three of Wands about moving forwards, it's like there's got to be a point where the arrow was let fly, and for some reason it hasn't happened. It feels like you're putting a lot of energy into trying to climb up this ladder, but for some reason you seem to be going deeper, and that's, if nothing else, it feels like it's incredibly frustrating for you. I'm just going to pause the video a moment while my boiler stops making noise. Thank you for your patience. I imagine that it actually doesn't really pick up on the microphone, but it's incredibly distracting for me. I can't think while that's going on. Anyway, so we get a little bit more of an indication as to what it is that might be going on when we look at the clarifiers down here. We've got another foundational level card, which is to say the Four of Cups. We have feelings of, of the less enjoyable kind whenever the Four of Cups shows up. It's about, sometimes about rejection, about abandonment, but it can also be about apathy and boredom. And Sag, I wonder if that's playing a huge part, in so much as it's the flag that you're not getting what you need out of the home space, whatever that is at the moment, right? Certainly where you thought you should be rooted and content, right? Your base for further movement forwards. It isn't actually being that at the moment, right? And I think we can see the issue being played out here between the Hierophant and the King of Wands. Now, you'll notice the lightning strikes on both of these. These are not, generally speaking, cards where we see that kind of imagery. Normally, the first card that everybody will bring to mind, and it's probably the only card where this features, is the Tower. But in this example, we have lightning strikes on both. We've got a kind of, as my partner puts it, like frisking of the nervous system going on between these two cards. And notice that they are looking in different directions, right? So we have this energy of perhaps boredom, perhaps apathy, perhaps a desire to reject what one has at the moment, but it's the base, it's the, you know, for whatever it's worth, it's the foundation at this point. But it doesn't feel like it's particularly engendering any kind of feeling of joy, positivity, or creativity in your life at the moment. And then we have the energy of the Hierophant coming next. Now, the Hierophant is Taurus energy. It is fixed earth. It is deeply responsible. It's a builder at its core, right? And he is more interested perhaps than most in the foundation that goes into things, because the Hierophant knows that everything that comes thereafter is going to be, you know, on this. It needs to be solid. It needs to be sturdy. I think it's a deeply responsible card too, and because it's Earth, because it represents Taurus, you know, we've got these matters of resource provision, taking care of business. You know, actually the kind of chop wood, carry water that we're always talking about here, right? But the lightning strike with the raven is just feeling like you actually kind of screaming into the void a little bit here. And then we have on the other side the King of Wands, obviously a much lower level energy because it's minor arcana rather than major. But also with this lightning strike here, again feeling the frisk of the nervous system, and it feels to me like you are being pulled in two different directions, and you can see the point in both, and you're trying to honour both, but you don't appear to be moving forwards, or you haven't appeared to be moving forwards in any kind of meaningful way for a while. The King of Wands is looking this way, towards, if you will, quite literally the future, and saying, I'm ready to act, I'm ready to do these things, I'm ready to be creative, I'm ready to do all of this. And yet there are all these responsibilities, all these duties, all these things to a space, whether material or not material, that I don't really feel is allowing me free rein to be myself within it. In fact, I would say you're probably feeling highly fucking restricted by your situation, as is over there. And this desire in the King of Wands, so albeit it's fixed energy too, but it's fixed fire, so it's something that sits in alignment with you a little bit better than Taurus does. Probably at, almost entirely opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to movement and the way that you do things. This King of Wands is kind of, I want to be going this way. I want to be doing something else. I don't want to feel this constant kind of push-pull thing that's going on that seems to be tearing me apart, because some aspect, and this is very interesting, Sagittarius, some aspect of my sense of self is being contorted in the middle of it. Now, let me just pull out a card here. That is... Look at this. I've got the Hierophant and the Queen of Pentacles. Now, these are both Earth energy cards, right? We've got the Hierophant showing up again with all the rigidity that represents. But we also have the Queen of Pentacles. And the Queen of Pentacles, whilst Earth, represents Capricorn, which is much more about the cardinal, well, it's a cardinal sign, right? So it's about pointing a direction. It's like wanting to go in a particular direction. But the Queen of Pentacles, because she is a queen and because she represents a passive energy, is much more about our understanding of value, the way that we take care of ourselves, to an extent the way that we take care of others too. But that's a bit more King of Pentacles work than Queen of Pentacles, because of the external expression of it, right? So it's this state of trying to make sense of lots of different things in your life, trying to take care of responsibilities and duties, trying to take care of yourself. And this is a big theme with the Queen of Pentacles, right? Trying to understand the value of the work that you are putting in for the foundation that it creates. And yet, there's something so utterly unfulfilling about where you have been. Now, what's interesting is when we move to your current energy, because we have more Earth energy there, Sagittarius, as if you weren't absolutely pig sick of it at the moment, and I think maybe you might be. But it's the Ten of Pentacles. Now, the Ten of Pentacles speaks to lots of different things, right? It can speak to business. It can speak to your physical home. It can speak to your family. It can speak to generational karma, generational trauma, all these sorts of things, right? There is a heritage and legacy component to the Ten of Pentacles, but it does also represent an end of some sort. So, Ten of Pentacles in combination with the Tower could be a house move, something like that, right? A literal relocation of self from one place to another. But we see that same idea of a relocation of self if you are dealing with some sort of generational karma, right? You're working through it in yourself, within you, healing your family line so that you can put yourself outside of the rather shady energy that's been kind of throwing forwards for generations, right? I wonder if there is a part of this that is like it's not simply one thing or another. It's a little bit of column A, it's a little bit of column B, it's a little bit of everything for you, Sagittarius. And in the middle of it, it's like there's this grinding friction which is saying, but none of this is quite right. Now, we've got the Page of Pentacles here, and it's in the reverse, and we've got the Three of Wands here, and this is in the upright, and generally speaking, we'd be like, this is really good, right? It was on its side over, oh, actually literally reversed over here, and we didn't like that very much. It's very much at odds with the way that the energy wants to flow when we're talking about the Three of Wands. But I am wondering if this Three of Wands is a little bit more like the desperate desire to get away from whatever it is you're in the middle of at the moment, to focus yourself on something new, right? The Tens represent endings and completions. So we've got as much, an end to an old story, whether that involves your business or your family maybe, or where you live, and a desire to get on with the next bit. But you'll notice that there's no Ace of Pentacles here, right? We're not seeing the Ace of Pentacles. What we're seeing actually is a lot of indication of a need for being slow, being still, being whatever, despite all of the frustration that seems to be causing you. Because this Page of Pentacles in reverse, it's not here yet, right? It's not showing up in its energy way, saying, okay, super, like we're starting the process of moving from the Ten of Pentacles to the Page. And just to be clear, the tarot runs in cycles, and there are lots of different ways of looking at those cycles, right? So you can look at it as running from the Ace to the 10. That's a complete cycle in and of itself. We can see it looking from the Page to the King. That can be a complete cycle in itself. Or we could go from the Ace to the King, and that also would be a whole cycle in and of itself. It's like, for this to flow on naturally, we need to have made sure that we have completely dealt with the issues of the old cycle. And I don't think it's there yet, Sagittarius. That's the problem. That's why the Page of Pentacles is showing up in the reverse, because there's a desire for movement without necessarily understanding the value of where you have been up until this point. Now, we could say perhaps you haven't learned the lesson of it yet, but I don't think it's quite... I don't think it's quite as strong as that. Tell me about this Page of Pentacles, please. Why is he reversed? Lovers reversed. Lovers is a card of manifestation, but it's also a card of working together with others. I wonder if you've just been feeling like you're kind of doing shit on your own here, Sag. It's like there isn't a shared vision. There isn't something that you can thoroughly throw yourself into. If anything, you feel like you are slightly separated from everything. And I've seen enough of the cards on the table here to say I don't think that is quite what the situation is. It's how it feels like it's playing out, but it isn't actually what it is. And there's a certain imbalance that seems to be occurring in you that is asking to be balanced. Now, I wonder if something to do with the Pisces eclipse here is nudging this on, or even the energy of Saturn is nudging this on, because as he's come back into the sign of Pisces, there's something here that he is looking to finish up, right? So he's going to... Oh, let me think now. I think he's retrograding to like... It's either 23 degrees or 25 degrees, because my natal Saturn actually sits on 24 degrees. And I remember looking at the chart and thinking... Oh, it's within a degree. I was basically sat on top of my own natal Saturn. But I actually can't remember which way around, right? So I don't know if he's going over the top or whether he's just going to sit next to my natal Saturn. There's something very imbalanced here. And I don't think it is in terms of the energy that somebody else is putting in. And it's interesting that this Virgo energy should be here when, as I've already said, we've got this Virgo solar eclipse showing up later on in the month. Because I do wonder if, and this would be true for all of us, the Virgo part of your chart is kind of working overtime. Now, you'll need to look to your chart specifically to see what house Virgo rules, right? If you're... for example, if you're a Pisces ascendant Virgo is going to rule your 7th house. If you're a Virgo ascendant, Pisces will rule your 7th house, right? You'll have to look at your chart to see what it is, because you could be a triple Sag, and don't make me work out where Virgo would be if you were a Sag ascendant in your chart there, right? But you could be a 6th house Sagittarius sun, in which case, you know, Virgo is going to be back that way, actually. Have a look in your chart and see what it is, because not only have we got an eclipse there, but the South Node is sitting there as well. So the South Node is bringing to the attention of everyone, not just all the Virgos on the planet, some aspect of your chart that is hyper-focused on detail, it's hyper-focused on perfection. And it's asking you to lean into what is actually happening here, because I think for you, Sagittarius, Virgo is probably about the most awkward energy that there is to deal with. Like where you are, you know, the great expanse, the cosmos, the higher philosophy. Virgo is about the detail. I mean, when I'm talking about detail, I'm saying we're talking about absolute fucking microscopy, right? That Virgo rules microscopy, because we're going right down into the detail of something. But I've made this observation before, and I don't hear a lot of other people talking about it. Like Sagittarius, and maybe it is because you can go, right? When you go, you go. You can, as much possibly as Virgo, overthink things to fuck. And what I'm feeling here is it isn't necessarily the circumstances that you find yourself within right now. It feels like it's what's going on internally in relation to what you are involved in right now that is causing the problem. Because the Temperance card here, you know, to be clear, if it was an external environment thing and it was somebody else who wasn't really pulling their weight, for example, I would expect to see the Lovers card showing up in the upright here. But we've got all of this energy focused on you. We've got you trying to go in one direction and seemingly circumstances pulling you back on that. And we've got that Page of Pentacles saying you don't move forwards until you understand the value of where you are right now, right? And now comes the Temperance card. Now comes that energy of Sagittarian balance, albeit, you know, capable of going to far bigger extremes than most other Sagittarians. It's like it's the internal state of having balanced yourself. There's so much internal friction here. It would be easier if this was an environmental situation, which is to say anything other than you right in the middle of this, right? You know, other people, circumstances, situations, whatever. And it's not that. It's going on within you right now. So we've got double Pisces. Have a look to see what Pisces is ruling in your chart, because there's a lot of energy there at the moment, right? Saturn is there. The North Node is there. We've just had a lunar eclipse there. And lunar eclipses are like full moons on steroids, right? They're like big endings. But Pisces will always have this aspect of acceptance around it. And because I'm feeling this friction within you, and I'm feeling a kind of resistance within you, when you've worked out what it is that is grinding uncomfortably inside, I feel like that will be the breakthrough moment for you, because this, like I said, this Page of Pentacles it's almost like you've not quite seen what it is that's actually happening here. Now, I'm not accusing you of being myopic. I don't think you're supposed to be able to quite see what's going on here. But there's a bigger picture which you seem to have missed because you were supposed to miss it. And quite literally, you're getting buffeted around really fucking hard from what I'm seeing here. almost like the energy of like 2 steps forwards, 2 steps back, and this rising frustration in the middle of it all. Because it's nothing to do with solving problems outside of you, Sagittarius. I mean, that's the energy that I'm getting off this here, right? So when we look at what's coming towards you for September, we have the Justice card. Now, I like this very much, and I like it even more since we've had the arrival of the Temperance card showing up, right? Because there are a number of cards within the tarot that speak to themes of balance, even the Hierophant, actually, to an extent. We've got the Lovers card. We've got the beautiful symmetry of that card, right, which is talking to balance. We've got Temperance card, the balanced act of balancing oneself, right? And pouring from one cup into another is not something that can be done properly unless you are fully balanced. The Hierophant is a different kind of balance, but you'll notice that there is a symmetry within that card too. We've got these two acolytes at the feet of the Hierophant right here, right? But this balance is a little bit more hierarchical and rigid, right? So these themes of balance are showing up all the way across the cards that we're seeing, but we know that something is out of balance here because we don't have a state of alignment going on. And then we've got the Temperance card, right? So as a precursor to the Justice card coming in, I like the fact that the Temperance card is here, because Justice, it speaks to many things. Like it speaks to fairness, and I wonder if there's something that's been feeling canny unfair to you recently, Sag. I wonder if that's been part of the sticking point, the grinding point for you, right? But I would say it is your perspective that has been part of the issue, right? This is what the Nine of Swords is always talking about when the Nine of Swords shows up. I mean, yes, it is an ugly card. It's quite grotesque. I actually flinched the first time I saw it because it was, you know, got a proper visceral reaction from me. But to just sit with that for a second, the presence of the Nine of Swords is always talking to the way that we are thinking about things, right? It is our perspective on stuff. Whether it shows up in the upright or whether it shows up in the reverse, it is always speaking to that, because it only makes sense in the reverse if it has at some point appeared in its upright. This is a loss of perspective, right? And perhaps it's because we've hyper-focused on details. Perhaps it's because we've lost sight of the bigger picture. I mean, that's almost assured when we see this Nine of Swords. What's interesting about that, though, is that I'm always banging on about the Nine of Swords in terms of neutrality. A theme that we might say we can see running through this here, right? And that neutrality comes from the positioning of the swords. Usually they're stacked horizontally on the wall, right? Making this card very, very clearly about perspective and the way that you see the world, the way that you see yourself in it, all that sort of stuff, right? The way that your mind quite literally works. But with it showing up in what we would ordinarily call a neutral state, which would be its sideways presentation, suddenly the swords aren't neutral anymore. So we've got this card that talks about justice and fairness and balance and equilibrium. We've also got it talking about karma, because that's what the Justice card is all about, right? And balancing of that. And we find ourselves, you know, at the foot of karmic eclipses in 2025. And I wonder if part of the acceptance here for you, Sagittarius, is that, and I feel like this is a lesson that Sag knows anyway, is that sometimes life isn't fair. You know, I've talked before about how I've got this fairly arbitrary rule about swords up, good, swords down, bad. And it is arbitrary, right? It's not a hard and fast rule by any stretch. But the shifting of the swords from neutral to now activated in some sort of way means that we have some swords that are more or less pointing upwards, and we have some swords that are more or less pointing downwards, and we've got this one neutral one here. And so then for me, it says it's a little bit of column A, it's a little bit of column B. Yeah, there are some things that are unfair, but there are some things that are also more than fair. Like the loss of perspective is still contained within the neutral state of this card, or the neutralized state of this card, if you will. It's saying things are changing, and what you absolutely don't want to do, and I feel like perhaps some of you have been doing it, looking back at these cards here, is sort of praying for the Tower to come along. Remember that was said, we only really see these lightning strikes here. Well, why is a lightning strike on a card that represents fixed earth? Why is a lightning strike on a card that represents fixed fire? What do these two cards have in common? It's the fixedness of these energies. You don't want it. We want mutability. We want the ability to be able to move around, right? To Sagittarius, freedom is sacrosanct. And in some way, your freedom feels like it's been compromised. But what I'm seeing from the cards here is that that isn't necessarily a true reflection of what is going on. I mean, realistically, there is no way in which we are ever stuck. There's just decisions we don't want to make and consequences we don't want to bear, right? So we've got these two fixed energies showing up here. We've got a great deal of frustration showing up around that. And then we've got this Tower. And I do think that you've been trying to pull the Tower in, because at least if there was some sort of crisis, it would be shifting what has been fixed for you. And what I think at the root of all of this has been this boredom, this sense of stuckness, this sense of taking 2 steps forwards and 2 steps back. But I like the fact that the Tower is showing up in its reverse, because what it's saying here is that we didn't need the Tower. There's not a Tower energy that needs to happen here. There is a balancing that needs to happen. And, whether the balancing is within or without, I believe that one is a reflection of the other. What we need to see is this sort of perfectly balanced state of swords here. 4 swords shooting up, 4 swords shooting down, and this one neutral one that's cutting across the middle. It's saying that there is something actually inherently balanced about what you have been experiencing, and that a shift in the way that you see things is the thing that's going to make all of this a little easier to bear. The last thing you really want to be doing is bringing in the Tower. And about the Tower, we've got the Ace of Swords. Very interesting. More cards of balance with the 6 of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck now. But notice how we have 2 aces, and they're showing up effectively neutralized. Sag, it's here. It's been here the whole time. It's like that meme with the astronauts. You know what I mean? I've said this before, and I'll say it again for people who haven't heard me saying that. When the aces come along, there is a historic train of thought that says that the aces are so powerful they should be exalted within the reading. And this is to say, we take the aces like this and we go, gosh, these are too powerful to be in the reading in and of themselves. So what we're going to do is we're going to stick them up here at the top, right? They're going to sit there. And everything that comes out needs to be interpreted in light of these aces. A singular ace, all 4 aces, doesn't really matter. Like however many of them come out, right? Because they're shining a light on a moment in time where there is the possibility of making contact with that potential, right? The full potential of what each of these aces, these seeds represent, right? And I have some respect for that as a concept. But and this is a major sticking point for me, potential is not something that switches on or off, right? When we are looking for our lucky break, right? It's not, we're not waiting for the gods to bestow that on us, right? If it's one thing that I've truly understood over the course of my life, it is that potential doesn't turn off or on. All we have are points where we are closer to being able to perceive potential than we are at other points because of the workings of our mind, right? So we have a card here that says the workings of your mind have gone all a little bit askew because you've been sort of hyper-focusing on something, and maybe that hyper-focusing is, I'm feeling a little bit hard done by, right? We all have points where we feel like that. But I think there's a dodging a bullet of a tower here, because some part of your psyche has been yearning for it. Give me the crisis, give me the drama, give me something to react to that breaks me out of this fucking rigid, fixed state that I have been in for a while now, maybe, right? Sagittarius. These cards are coming here as a reminder that you are never stuck, you are never trapped, and the potential never switches on and off, it's always there. You have stopped yourself from being able to see it, though. Do you remember when we saw this Ten of Pentacles over here? I said, we haven't seen the Ace yet. Right? You've got what you got. You're doing what you're doing. And there's a reason why you're doing what you're doing. And you can't move on until you see the value in what it is that you're doing. That's what I said. But now the cards are doing a little subtle correction in what I said, and they said, no, the capacity exists for you to choose to do anything else. Are you choosing to do what you're doing now, or are you going to choose to do something else? And I wonder if this is a very subtle energy of you taking ownership of where you are right now versus feeling victim to it, because I'm getting much more of a sense of feeling victim to it than I'm owning this and here are the consequences of my actions, right? You don't need a tower to break you free, Sagittarius. You are literally the embodiment of freedom. And there are times where you're going to have to chop wood and carry water, and it's going to feel like ass, and you're not going to want to do it. And some of those periods of time may be protracted, but it doesn't mean that you haven't chosen them, and it doesn't mean that it isn't the consequences of your actions, right? Now, the Ace of Swords here, I think, is incredible because it's giving you the opportunity to think differently about where you are right now, how you see the world and all that kind of thing. Obviously, if we put these two cards together, what we've got is a 10, so we've got an end to a particular way of thinking about things. And with the 10 of Swords, I mean, that can often be an end to a kind of victimhood mentality, or feeling victimized mentality, more importantly. I like the 10 of Swords because it's an end to a particular kind of thinking. It's topped out, and as uncomfortable as it may be, what replaces it is the energy of the Ace of Swords. We're getting just a little bit closer to a truth, right? To something that is more real than what we were working to before. It's right there, Sag. It's there, available for the taking, and the same is true for the Ace of Pentacles. Like, everything about this reading says that there's some sort of big picture aspect that you've lost sight of. And that's very unlike you to do so. Which means that something about what you've been involved in recently for the last maybe month or two, maybe longer, has taken your upward gaze and it's dragged it down onto something very, very small, such that now you can't see the wood for the trees. And maybe begging for some sort of, lightning bolt intervention to, at least in the moment, light up everything that is. And I think perhaps you've been wanting other people to see it rather than seeing it yourself. I don't know. There's something about this reading that makes me... The vision that I've got is when you're asleep and you're dreaming, right? And you're trying to fight monsters. Whatever it is that Sagittarius do in their dreams, right? And you're thrashing about and you're fucking caught, and you can feel that frustration and that anger rising in your dream, right? And then you wake up and actually you've just got tangled up in the sheets, and you're, oh, fuck's sake, right? And you waggle your legs around and you kick the sheets out, and you're like, oh, okay, it's all good now. Like there's some mental, emotional, spiritual aspect of having got caught up in the sheets here. You might be stuck, but you have the ability to free yourself. You know, whatever thought processes you've been locked in on, however you felt your energy being expended, it's not quite the full picture. It's certainly not the full story of what's going on. And so September has this deeply embedded potential for you to totally change the way that you see everything. I mean, like the fact that we've got the star here is amazing, because one of the things that the star talks about is the regaining of hope. You notice that she's sitting there and she's looking up now to, you know, extend the conversation in terms of what we've been thinking about your duties and your responsibilities and the very, very fixed energy that you've been in here. We've got that girl doing exactly that. She's cuddling the lamb, right? She's protecting the weak. Maybe she's trying to heal it. Maybe it's not very well. I don't know. I can't tell if it's unwell or asleep, right? But she's got her foot in the water, which means she's connected to her emotions. She's sitting on the ground, which means that she is quite literally grounded in a way that is useful. But she's looking up to the sky. This whole month is showing you something that you missed. By design, you were supposed to miss it. That brings the lesson home to you far more profoundly than it would have done otherwise. And what I feel for you, Sag, is the ability to look up again by the end of the month, which is so very, very fucking important, without having to suck in the energy of drama, crisis, breakdown, all the towery kind of things. Bringing your power back to you. This is outstanding. Right, I'm going to go to the extended now. So if you'd like to join me over there, you're very welcome to do so. You can do that on Selfie, you can do that on Circle. I would be genuinely delighted to see you in either place. If that's not for you, that's fine. Just know that whatever wrestling the sheets you've been doing, Sag, it is coming to an end. But recognise that it's not about what you're doing. It's about what's going on in here. And the more tweaks you can make to that, the quicker this energy will come in. And take a look at your chart and see what's ruled by Virgo. See if, parts of your life that are giving you jip are to be found there in the Virgo part of your chart. Certainly might get some insight into it. Anyway, I'm going to go. Know that I love you all very, very much. And I'll see you soon.